Greetings, Facebook Live fam.
What you want, man? What you want, little girl?
All right. Good evening, family, and welcome to True Love Movement Tuesdays. Your host, Brother Shaq.
I'm on fire.
Right here on WBOK 1230 AM Real Talk for Real Times this October 8th, 2019 here in the city of New Orleans. What's happening, Mama Fire?
Feeling good today, Brother Shaq. It was a little cooler today.
Yeah, I saw they had a little welcome drop in temperature, huh?
Yes, very welcome drop in temperature.
It went from 120 to 117, right? Is that what happened?
Well, I don't know about all that, but I know it feels great outside.
It
today.
does. It does.
Yeah,
It
the sky is clear skies, and yeah, you know, we have to give thanks for when it feels, when some things are doing well. You know, when some things are working.
That's right.
Let's just, you know.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I totally agree with that. And we also totally agree with you joining us here this time. You know, we know this is usually the commute, the ride home time. Folk are getting off from work and picking children up from school and just moving young people around and all kinds of people around elsewhere. And so we're honored that you have chosen to ride with us for these next couple of hours, because there's so many things happening here in New Orleans and really all over the world. Shout out to our Facebook Live family.
Shout out to Facebook Live.
That's right. Simply like the True Love Movement page on Facebook, and you can join us here live in the studio as normal. And looks like we got a joiner.
A sweet and special guest, I like to call her. Yummy.
Right on.
She's feeling much better than last week. So.
That's good. That's good.
Give thanks.
Give thanks for real. So yeah, Mama Fire, how was your day?
My day was good. It was busy. Tuesdays are a little bit lighter because I know I have to come to the True Love Movement Hour.
Right.
So I definitely want to, talk about how, doing really great work. Really great work with my sisters. My sisters are learning by leaps and bounds and using what they learn. What you say, Iyami?
Right on.
What you say, girl? So everybody is making progress, and making progress, we have to even take the little steps, because we'll get disheartened if we have big, huge goals. We need to understand what it looks like to go towards smaller goals.
Right.
And so talking about our progress makes sense. Like if you got up and not feeling dreadful. You know what I'm saying? Every day you were feeling dreadful for 3 months, and then you get up and you don't feel as dreadful, or you don't feel like, eating the wrong thing, or you don't feel like, even the smallest little thing, we need to celebrate that.
I agree.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay to celebrate yourself and even celebrate baby steps. We try to take too many big steps, then we get disheartened and want to quit.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that personally, and also, philosophically. I think that is true, to celebrate those smaller incremental wins. So that's a great outlook, family, and so we would like to take that outlook and talk a little bit about today's show, this October 8th, 2019, here in the city of New Orleans on WBOK 1230 AM Real Talk for Real Times. You can catch us, of course, here at 1230 on your AM dial, and on the web at www.wbok1230am.com, and of course in the Google Play and in the Apple App Store. You can download the WBOK 1230 app and listen in right there. So today's topic is a good topic, Mama Fai. I think something that we've been talking about and actualizing for many years, and vocally and deliberately so. And it hasn't always been as popular, and we're seeing a little gain in popularity. But we suspect, even in those, we just talked about celebrating some of the smaller wins or seemingly smaller wins. We do suspect that on some level, even those smaller wins, as far as what today's topic is, have been more of a transactional nature. which is definitely a start. But what we're really here for in terms of the long term is something very transformative. And so that topic and that thing that we're talking about is going to be the understanding, I guess, of the understanding of safe black spaces, Mama Fire.
Yes, that's what we decided.
Safe black spaces, family, is today's topic. I think we're in a safe black space right now, right here at this moment, Mama Fire. I mean,
I feel safe wherever you are, Brother Shay.
Right
Let
on.
me just say that.
Right on.
Wherever we are together, I definitely feel safe. I know that you're able to protect me, and I know that you're able to protect yourself and protect everyone in the space. So
That's right.
wherever you are, for me, it's a safe black space.
Right on, and thank you for that. And likewise, I know that wherever I'm at and you're there, that we're good. We are.
We both there.
Absolutely good when you're there, for sure. But, I've asked this question, Mama Fire, to, at this point, hundreds of black folk all around the country, about the idea of, safe spaces. But I didn't really frame the question exactly like that. I didn't raise the topic of safe spaces. But what I did instead was ask the black folk who were present, and again, now we're in the hundreds of our people, but just around the country, I asked them a very simple, basic question. Where do you feel safe? In the form of a location. I asked, where do you feel safe? And to give me a location. And each time, that I've asked this question, of the dozens of times that I've asked this question, no matter where I am geographically in the United States, and no matter how many black folk are present, or the ages and variations and variety of black folk present who I pose this question to, I always get the exact same answers. And it's usually, there's a top three, and there's usually no more than three, Mama Fire. When I ask black folk, where do they feel safe? They say, many do say their home. That's probably the most popular answer, the home. But not everybody, because some folk have challenges at home with the people who are also in the home that sometimes do them things and violate them. So it's not home for everyone. I want to be clear about that. And then some folk will say they feel safe. They'll say they feel safe at church. But not everybody, because some folk have reported certain kinds of experiences of being violated at church. So that's not 100% of the time. But home and church are usually the top two. And then some folks say they feel safe, in their car, or occasionally somebody will say they feel safe at work. But that's usually it. There's nothing really more on the list but that generally. And, that's pretty incredible. But again, I'm qualifying that with saying that this is posed to groups and gatherings of black folks throughout the country who are not related in any other thing other than the fact that they have a black experience here in America today. But they all say the same thing, Mama Fire.
Isn't that a trip?
It is a trip. It's definitely a trip. And one of the things that they never say, which is the most telling, and of course we unpack and analyze their responses after they do answer the question. What they never say is right here. They never say that they feel safe right here, right now, in the very place where I'm posing the question, and presumably with me. And so I thought that was very, very telling of something important as it relates to the experience collective experience of being black here in America.
Yeah, that has a lot of implications. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, with the analysis of the question, what we're able to determine is that black folk really don't feel safe most places, because you have to, leave your house quite a bit. You have to go out and be with other people in mixed company. You have to do a great many things as far as travel is concerned. And when you think about it, there are not a whole lot of places that black folks really do frequent in the normal course of every single day, or the normative course of every single day, and I'm just generalizing here, that is just filled completely with black folks, and even if it is, there's an acknowledgement that they don't feel safe on fire, even amongst their own people, and sometimes especially amongst their own people.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember we use the term sometimes on our flyers or sometimes on our promotion for our events. Not all of our events are quote unquote safe black spaces, but many of them are.
Right.
And you know, we've been using that for years now, some time now.
True.
And one time, a young lady asked me, "What does that mean?" She was black, and she asked me. She's one of those inquisitive types, one of those, you know, intellectual type of person that doesn't just take, you know, what people say.
Right.
She just wants to dig into it. And she asked me, "So what is a safe black space?" And I told her, I said, "Well, it's a place where black people can come and be exactly who they are amongst each other and only each other." And she was like, "Well, sometimes I don't feel safe with only black people." Right? And that's real. That's real. I mean, she shared that with me. And at that point, I told her, I hear her. But that's why there, in safe black spaces, needs to be boundaries and for violations or just boundaries, period, on how we conduct ourselves with ourselves as well.
Right.
Because it can't just be about no white people or no Spanish people or no, you know, it can't just be about no other type of person. It need to be a, you know, all black people, yes, but also like with the right understanding and with the right heart.
Right. Well, you know, and I'm glad that this was perhaps a younger sister. And I'm glad that she did say that to you, because, you know, it's important for us to get a better understanding of how folk think, because one of the greatest, I think, missteps as it relates to black folks is that we even those of us who say that we know, still sometimes through the generalization and the collectivization of black folk, approach it from the standpoint as if we are all exactly the same, that we are a monolith, and that we all see and read and evaluate and experience things precisely the same way.
We don't.
And we definitely don't. And I want to go a little further and say, not only do we think that that's the case, but we don't consider that other people could even have their own perspectives. You know what I'm saying? That's even the right thing to do. And so I just wanted to say that, and that it's refreshing when someone says, "Well, you know, I don't really get that, or I think differently." You know, or like, you know, then the thought that things really should all be the same, like people misunderstand the unity. You know, thinking that it's all of us doing exactly the same thing all at the same time.
Thinking the same exact way.
Right.
And I told her that I heard her and that I felt her too when she said that sometimes she doesn't feel safe in all black spaces.
Right.
And it's true. I've been in an all black space and not felt safe.
Definitely.
You know, so we can't. I think we need to dig into that and then what boundaries are needed, because especially for a black woman in spaces where misogyny, objectification, patriarchy, sexism and all those things exist, you know, and also sexual violation and sexual abuse, those things exist. You know, I wish I could say that we are always safe together, but lots of the time, because of proximity as well as internalized racial inferiority, and so many other things,
right.
You know, like our own experiences with trauma and stuff, we hurt each other.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think that's good too, Mama Fi, that you pointed it out, that there are reasons why, you know, it's not, you can't just presume that because it's only black folk that you are going to be safe. You know, history has shown us that is not necessarily always the case, for the reasons that you named. And so yeah, I don't think she's in disagreement with that.
She's not. She's just trying to get something and make something, do something. She's actually having a lot of fun.
And then that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. But And so, as it relates to the question I asked about where black folks feel safe, and in our collective analysis around it, what we were able to determine was that, you know, our people don't really feel safe anywhere in general, outside of the home, and again, not 100% in the home. And it speaks to us not really having a sense of command or the control over our environments and our experiences, you know, in our bodies. And like there's a long, you know, a very long and intricate history of that in America. And I would suffice it to say that we've never known that. We've never known that experience here in America, not as a collective group of people. Because even the black folks who do say that they feel safe and qualify the exceptions to the rule and qualify other locations outside of their home or their, you know, immediate family members or cause or whatever, even those black folk, when we keep going and we dig a little bit deeper, they recognize that they too are afraid and they're fearful. Because I remember there was a young brother who said that he was fearful sometimes around white folks. And it wasn't that he was afraid of them, is what he said. He said he was afraid of what he might do to them should they get out of line with him. And I understood what he was saying in that moment, and I said, brother, I know what you just said sounded and felt very good, perhaps to your ego, and maybe even our collective ego as black men. But if you really listen to what you were saying, the reason why you're saying that you're afraid of what you may do to them is because you understand that whatever should you do anything or should you respond in any kind of way to them in a way that they feel threatened or they feel unsafe, that they're going to respond to you, and they have the gathered power of every single system and institution that they've created to support them on that. And that you're actually concerned that if, in fact, they confront you in a way, that you won't have an answer for what they're going to bring, which would mean you still are, in fact, fearful and rightfully so. But don't let your ego convince you that you are not afraid, because you are afraid. You're definitely concerned about the consequences, be it, you know, physical or otherwise, because you're acknowledging that there's a power dynamic in your relationship with, you know, the proverbial archetypical white person of dominant culture, and in America, so-called dominant culture in America, and that is frightening. And it is frightening, and we should acknowledge that.
Definitely. So
that we're not crazy, you know, in terms of how we respond to things. But also in that analysis, Mama Faya, is the fact that we're an insecure people, that we feel unsafe. So we're hyper-vigilant.
We've never been safe.
We've never
been secure or never been safe here in America.
And what does that do to our ability to relate to and with one another and cultivate these safe spaces that we're talking about here today, Mama Faya? That's the, you know, the question that we're posing for our listening audience and for our viewers. Shout out Mama J, Janice Hutchison on Facebook Live, as well as Delise Hampton and others who have joined us on Facebook Live.
Family. In the place.
Right on. And invite some folks you think need to be a part of this conversation on True Love Movement Tuesdays today, this October 8th, 2019, here in New Orleans, talking about black safe spaces here, family. So please join us and invite some folk you respect.
Yeah, it's a trip how I've gotten a lot of different feedback from our people. I'm not too worried about the feedback from other people, worried about the feedback from our people. And one time we had put something was a safe black space, and a woman made a big deal about it and said, well, I'm black, and if other people can't come, then I'm not coming.
Oh,
you know?
wow.
And the thing about it is that's up to you.
Definitely.
I mean, hey, you know, ain't no love lost for that.
Definitely.
But not seeing the value or not seeing the benefit of having safe black spaces is a little concerning to me.
Right.
To not say for anybody, white people, any other race of people, for them to say that it's not fair and no one should be able to have that. If anybody should be able to have that, it's us.
Definitely, because it's overdue.
Overdue.
It's never happened.
It must be done.
Yeah.
In order for us to heal, we must be able to heal together and say the things, you know, that may be
said.
That need to be said, but say the things that may be misconstrued by other, you know, people that think that's racist, or they think, you know, whatever the case may be, they don't understand it.
Sure.
But we do, because we're in the same situation, we're in the same position. And we need to be able to talk about that so that we can move it up out of ourselves.
That's right. That's
you know, shout out to Neo Jazz School of Music and Free to Speak.
Right on.
Yeah, and Free to Speak right now is our Safe Black Space
That's
that we
right.
have for the New Orleans community.
Right.
And just let us know if you would like Free to Speak somewhere in your community. We could definitely come in and help you set it up. But these are places where not only we can share with each other what's on our minds specifically, but also share your art, whatever art you want to share, and those kind of things. So it's an open mic, but it's different in that if you want to emote, or if you want to talk about something that's sad or makes you angry or makes you happy or whatever,
right.
you have that ability to do that as well.
That's right.
As well as talk about our businesses, or talk about a movement, or talk about an idea and needing support for whatever. It's just the you know, I'm excited to offer this to the New Orleans community. Yeah.
That's right, and it is not pretentious whatsoever, family.
Oh no.
And I'm only saying that because not any particular open mic that I can call, at least currently, but I know that there's a history, and there's also somewhat of a sentiment that open mics, Mama Fire, are particularly pretentious, and that they're environments where people come to compete somewhat, and sometimes
definitely.
or show off, or
and we know what competition is,
or debate folk, or whatever the case is,
or shine brighter than.
Oh yeah, compete and compare, and I think that you know, I don't see that as a weakness. I think that it's normal. It's normative for that to want to happen or need to happen, Mama Fire, because, you know, so many times our people, as a result of racism, the experience of racism, the outward you know, oppression of racism, as well as the internalized racial inferiority of racism, so much of that invisibilizes our people. So much of it does, and our people feel invisible. We feel small. We feel we have to dim our light, or while we're at work and when we're in other places, we feel compelled to dim our light, dim our light, and and so this is an opportunity to bring that back into balance, because, you know, that's. We deserve that, you know, and that no one's going to do that for us. No one's going to do that outside of us either. And so I think it's important that we take good advantage, family, for those of you who are listening and watching, about Free to Speak, and to come on out to see about that, and to see about us, and to listen and develop the skill to listening to black folk, listening to your own people. You know, listening, and even listening from zero, not to critique or anything else.
That's right.
But to listen from zero to really find what they're saying, so that there ain't this great drive and need to compete and put folk down and show off and compete and all that other foolishness, that we can just be together and just be together.
Yeah, just be together. That's right. Be together in fellowship, be together in communication, be together in community, be together in safety.
Right.
And you know, there are some things that we take care of in this space to make sure that no one is hurting anyone.
That's right.
Because that's another layer of safety. It's not only a safe black space for people to come and speak, but a safe black space for people to be.
That's right.
For children to be, for adults to be, you know, for women to be.
For men to be.
For men to be.
Right. I mean, you know, I think that when as a black man, when black men discuss with me violence, and usually, believe it or not, it's seldom, not that it isn't in there, but it seldom begins with them inflicting violence on someone. They often talk of someone inflicting violence on them, or a fear of someone inflicting violence on them, and not wanting to get caught up in the legal system. I mean, just to orient the conversation to remove any thought that there's an undertone of black men being the aggressors, or being violent, or perhaps being problematic just for the sake of them being black men. because we know the narrative has been, even, since the plantation time, that it was the black man who was hyper aggressive and violent and what have you. And though we know the statistical data today and has always pointed otherwise, that the most violent folks statistically in America and also in American history, the data all points to the white male is in fact the most violent of all people here in America, and it is not in the black man. So I wanted to add that to the conversation, Mama Fire, so that it was also understood that there's not a presumption that black men are just inherently violent or going to be violent, in particular places where there are other black people. What you say?
Yeah, thank you for always bringing that into the fold. Thank you for being a black man that thinks, thoughtfully and mindfully about black men.
Right on.
And what's needed to understand the balance of being a black man and relating to black men.
Mm-hmm.
You were chosen. You're the chosen one for True Love Movement to be that man, because black women, who have been hurt by black men sometimes, not demonized, but think of black men as their enemies.
Definitely.
Just naturally.
Definitely.
Think of black men as enemies, and we understand why.
Definitely.
Yeah, man.
How could they not? If that's been your particular experience, black woman, black girl, or black man, if violence has been exacted upon you by, other black people, or perhaps, black men specifically, then of course you're going to develop a sort of bias towards black men. Mm-hmm. You can't help but do that. That's what nature does. But the interesting thing about it is, even though all of the historical data and current data points to the greatest threat of violence statistically coming from or emanating from the proverbial white male, there's still the invisibilization of that large statistical, provable, and verifiable fact that the way our minds are oriented, we just don't even see that. And we know why. We've been socialized to not see. All people have been socialized not to see violence coming in that way. But again, for sanity's sake, a quick and thorough history and even current lesson will tell us exactly that is the case, Mama Fire.
That's right.
And when we're trying to, in talking about creating the safe space with a group of people who've not ever known individual safety.
That's right, yeah.
What are some of the challenges that, you hear or we've come to understand about just even the plausibility of such a thing as a safe black space from within our community?
Yeah, I think the challenge I've talked about a little bit, not feeling safe with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But my answer is always positive, in that I know we can. We must.
Right.
We must develop these safe spaces and work through the kinks of, possible issues that happen in safe black spaces, and create, scaffolding or support as needed. I feel like, True Love Movement is there specifically to help deal with these things, deal with things as they come up. We've never seen anything come up, Brother Shaq.
Right.
But when it does, we're ready for it.
That's right.
And we're ready to learn. We're all learning.
That's right.
Yeah, we're all learning. So, I think the question is, do we need an actual guideline? Do we need guidelines, or is that white?
Well, Yeah, I think that guidelines are perhaps good, but even the whole thought of guidelines often come to us externally in the form of rules or policies or regulations or programs or something that is is been imposed upon us from outside of us. And it isn't that we don't have the sense or the heart to be able to do that for ourselves. It's just been our orientation and experience that the way we are acquainted with the concept of, say, guidelines is something that we should follow, that is being imposed outside of ourselves. I would ask, for anyone who is listening or watching, and shout out to Tamara Prosper, and, enjoyed her and Free to Speak. She says here, it felt good to listen to our people sharing freely. Thanks for creating Free to Speak. And shout out to that sister and her husband, the Show Fresh team, our brother Thaddeus Prosper there for joining us and spitting something on the mic he said he hadn't done in about 25 years or so, or 20 years or so. We appreciate that. As well as, Mama Charlita. She says, hey,
my sister.
Right on for joining us, and everyone who is joining us on the Facebook Live, and those of you who are listening in the car or on your way home or wherever you may be. We're grateful to you for joining us, and we would encourage you to share this show and previous shows with people that you respect. You can invite them to watch and join us right now on today, this October 8th, 2019. We're talking about safe black spaces and really what that's all about, Mount Fire.
Yes. And I want to thank everybody who came through this past Sunday. Mm-hmm. There were exponentially more people.
We're grateful for the growth.
Each time, yeah.
Yes.
We are going to take a little break next Sunday, but we'll be back on October the 20th, and we would hope people would join us that are listening to experience it. You don't have to share. I do encourage, and people like the way I encourage those to share, that if you have anything to say, and if you have a business or want to promote things or just want to talk about what you learned or want to teach something or want to share art, you can do that. And or if you just want to sit in a safe black space.
That's right.
Sit with your people for a little while,
That's
3
right.
hours, just sit and also support the Neo Jazz School of Music.
Right.
Support it by buying a drink or buying some food, or and then eventually we want to expand this thing for vendors and all kind of stuff, and having featured artists and this kind of thing, to really make it a phenomenon and a dynamic place to be, and something that it's on the tip of all of our tongues, safe black spaces.
That's right. And
and it's okay.
Yes. And for our people who are, and most of our people, Mama Fire, that at least been my experience, that our people in particular are really visual learners. We're not so much concerned with what people say to us, but rather what they show. Mm-hmm. And to be able to, bear witness and participate and contribute in the cultivation and curation and maintenance of a safe black space, I think, is a great exercise in self-determination, because it gives our people an opportunity to, build collectively and to see, like Yami's got these little blocks right here. They call them building blocks, and she's doing all kinds of things with them, but that's kind of how we do when we build with one another, because we don't necessarily have all the dexterity that we need to position the blocks in a way for growth and equity. But with practice and with patience and the right amount of time, surely we're more than capable to do that. And that we're all we need to do that, and we're all we got anyway, but we're certainly all we need to do that.
Yes, we're all we need, Brother Shay. We're all we need. And I welcome all of my artist people who may go to regular open mics but don't want to share maybe a new piece. Mm-hmm. Maybe want to share something that they would never share, Right. Shout out to Outrage, who shared a very sacred piece with everybody there, and I spoke to her afterwards, and it really helped her therapeutically. It really helped her move through some of the things that she was feeling regarding the topic of her piece. So it's a good thing.
Right. So it's therapeutic as well.
Yep. Therapeutic as well.
And it's great how people can get an experience like that, that we create for ourselves, and it ain't gotta be luck. Like, we can really just do it.
We can do it.
And I want to add too, as we are working our way through this particular time and getting ready to, of course, open the lines. I wanted to add another layer to that kind of dealt with the more difficult to discuss or difficult to talk about or confront aspect of some of the impediment to the creation and the maintenance of the Safe Black Space, but also the how reasonable it is to say that we can do it, because I think it's definitely on the mind of some of our listeners and our viewers, and I wanted to bring that up because that's part of it too. Like, we got to also deal with the challenges that some of our people really do struggle being amongst our people. Mm-hmm. There's some of our people who have a lot of tension, a lot of animosity. They're dealing with multitudes of issues, and that is not unlike most black people out here, because you always say, how do you heal in the belly of the beast? Constantly. So anybody who is listening to this or watching this, joining us here on the radio, anyone can also attest to this. It's difficult. It's difficult for us as black folk to sometimes be together in very healthy and positive ways. We've not had a lot of training, as you talked about, Mama Fi, as we were opening up and working our way through this, that there's a lot of collective history and a lot of recent and current history and current realities of black folks who are struggling to experience high quality of life and safety and sanity and good health in the company of other black folks, be it family, friends, neighborhood, community, or otherwise. So we wanted to acknowledge that too.
Yeah, that's an important part of it, though, Brother Shay.
Yeah.
What do we do? And I guess we just wait for that to happen, wait for anything to happen to see about any issues that could come up. I mean, what should we do? Should we try to think about issues that could come up, or just create? I mean, should we put something we say out there, or?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not moved to do anything on that side in terms of in the kind of proclamation, but I think that just the awareness that some of our folk do struggle, and aren't, in fact, I'll even go as far as to say, as a result of their struggles and their management of their struggles, they may not be fit to in fact respect the humanity and the sanctity of such a space, and I'm acknowledging that. As a matter of fact, it's not that I'm inviting folks that may apply to. I'm only acknowledging the fact that there are members of the community who struggle in such a way that they may be unsafe to themselves and to others of us.
Yeah.
And that is just a fact. So we're not pretending that simply if you just proverbially throw a whole bunch of black folk together, everything should just be all right because we say it's a safe black space, and then folk just supposed to buy into that. We're acknowledging that there's sometimes folk who do struggle to be with themselves. Even some folk are dangerous to themselves, and we do recognize that there is an acknowledgement of there's acknowledgement of trying to wrestle with and work through that. That's a real thing. That sometimes, and to our people's credit, a lot of time people know that they can't do so well, and so a lot of times they hang back. But we gotta. You're right, Mama Fi. We gotta find ways to be supportive to the extent that we can. Mm-hmm. But I do think that as we all well know who are listening and watching this, that the right people always tend to show up. You know, in divine time, the people who are supposed to be at a particular event or the people who are supposed to be in a particular space, they're supposed to show up. And so it's never really about quantity, but really all about the quantity, because everybody isn't drawn to the same vibe. And if it isn't your vibe, it ain't your tribe, then, you know, that isn't the place you need be. You know, everything ain't for everybody. What we're talking about here today is the concept and cultivation and maintenance of safe spaces for black folk that are created by and maintained by black folk, where black folk can have a reasonable expectation that we can enjoy ourselves in a way that everybody is respected and nurtured and taken care of.
Yeah. And let me just say, you know, I'm privy to a lot of information in New Orleans and a lot of information among the quote-unquote people of the same tribe. There's still, you know, violations happening.
Right.
Even within the tribe. And you know, it's because I don't think we've had those conversations about what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, and why. Because of the, you know, and I'm just talking about between black men and black women. And I don't know if we want to touch that right now, but I think we should, because violations are happening and brothers don't even realize that they're doing it.
Right.
They don't even realize that they're violating. And so do we just throw the whole black man away, or do we talk about, you know, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate amongst ourselves? And then some things that we think are inappropriate may be appropriate. I mean, there's a lot to be said about, you know, ways that we can keep, just to say it's free to speak safe. Mm-hmm. But then that's a microcosm of the macro need for us to have these conversations, because black men and black women have been brought up in ways that are unhealthy and potentially violate people, and they don't even realize it.
You're right. I mean, I think this is the right place to talk about that. You know, that may be some of the things that are on the hearts and minds of our people. And in having the ability to be able to listen to these kinds of conversations, Mama Fi, and participate, but listen, you know, objectively.
Yeah.
As opposed to defensively. Because, you know, folk have some variation of experience, but still, many of us have had much of the same experience, or very similar experience, which shows that these are not isolated incidences or isolated occurrences. And we perhaps should define more of, you know, the way to be in that space.
Yeah.
Or what the things to do, so that, again, folk have reasonable expectation, because the fact that we have to talk about this shows the gap in our humanity, you know, the gap in the acquaintance of our humanity, that we actually have to form it out, you know what I'm saying, and talk about it, and even talk about a structure of it, or, you know, to use something you offered, you know, guideline or anything of the like, you know, which points to, you know, and I don't want to minimalize and invisibilize that you know, we something really has been done to us that makes us this way.
Yeah.
You know, the depravity that we're talking about, or the pathology that we're talking about, is not our nature, but rather a consequence to the multi-generational dehumanization that we have suffered as a collective of people.
And we just can't sit there in that understanding of it. We've got to do something about it.
Right.
You know, we have to try, and we have to try to do new things together. And then we have to, I guess, you know, when things arise, deal with them.
Sure. You know, and I also think too, it this doing for self that we're talking about is, this concept about safe black spaces, though we've been using the phrase and the word and applying that as a you know, a foundational piece to the way True Love Movement operates and functions, we definitely have to say that this is not a new concept or a new understanding of the necessity, as it has been in practice for a very long time, that black folks have been creating safe spaces for black folks forever, you know, even including, you know, what we know Harriet Tubman did. I mean, that the concept of the safe black spaces ain't new age at all. Mm-hmm. You know, and even in more recent, we could simply look to the example, the profound example of the NOI, you know, the Nation of Islam. Mm-hmm. At any mosque you go to, will make sure that it is in fact a safe black space.
Yes, they will.
And that's understood. And anyone who may be offended by that is, that's unfortunate. But again, for it makes lots of sense, and it's being done. So we're not talking about reinventing something.
Well, we are. I mean, it's been done and it's being done, but it's done in a way where they separate the genders. They separate the men and the women to make sure there's no violation that happens between men and women. But we also want women to feel safe to sit anywhere they want to.
Well, perhaps. I mean, inside of the way their internal community is structured, yes. I was speaking more of the check procedures.
Yes.
And the things that happen, just that are minimum things upon being able to enter the mosque. Not so much the way they do what they do once you're inside of there, but just what it takes to pass through. That they are excellent gatekeepers and adept at making sure that that's there and it's real. And so I was just using that as a...
It's definitely happening, and it has been happening for a while. And I don't want to confuse like the country clubs where white people go and black people cannot go.
Right.
And also what we're doing here too. So we've had to have safe black spaces. We've been, cast out of spaces, and we've been excluded from spaces. And so, but also like people who have like minds and spirits hang together. That's why there's a lot of black churches and a lot of black, clubs and that type of thing. Is because people with the same kind of energy want to be in the same space.
Right.
But I also want to put a huge thick line between black safe spaces or safe black spaces and white only spaces.
Right. Say more about that.
And I think what people could say is that's just like when white people excluded us from places. And how could it be just like that? You need power in order to exclude people from all kind of things, from spaces, from resources, from levels of financial security, from home and getting homes and their economy stuff, economical things. It's like when we talk about racism, Brother Shaq, you bring it up all the time. You are a facilitator of trainings that give an understanding of racism in a way that we know it takes power.
That's right.
It takes power. It takes the type of power that black people have not acquired, but we have not acquired as far as the system, the great big system that they've created. And so, our people we really do struggle with a lot. And we struggle with that feeling like we don't want to do what they did to us. And it's not the same.
That's right.
Safe black spaces are not the same as white only spaces.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you for making that distinction, because sometimes you can say safe black spaces and folk will hear, this is the same thing as a white only.
Yeah.
And I wanted to...
And it's probably black folks that think that way.
Well, it's been our experience that oftentimes they're not. And look, that's only because of the manifestation of internalized racial inferiority, the manifestation of like protectionism and assimilation sort of things, where it is deep in the psyche of black folks to always consider white folks. That's we've been trained that way. We've been socialized that way, even in the womb. It'll happen unconsciously, but definitely will happen consciously if there is some pressure put on that. Because in truth, in my experience, it's just for no other reason than, again, we're back to safety again, that black folks really want white folks to know, hey, we're with you. Like we're not about that separation and discriminating against you and that kind of thing. We want to let white people know, hey, it's cool, it's all good with us. We like you, and then you can be comfortable with us. And we really do we're trained to ensure their safety, even though we've never known it ourselves. That is the evidence of the sickness, though. Without judging it, it's just what ends up happening, that we are more concerned of maintaining their comfort and safety, even though we've never known it ourselves. And that is simply because that's the way they program us, that's the way they've raised us, that is the way that it works. And when you mentioned, how black people don't have, how did you say it, like the systems about the safe spaces. I think however it was, I was just thinking how you said it. It was right. I wanted to go deeper and say that what black people have never had is the support of the systems to maintain our safety. In other words,
that's right.
In other words, there was a history in this country where it was white only, and white folks had things that were white only during segregation. That was legal policy, and also now we still have the same things that, whether they're legal or not, they're still enforced the same way, because they do have the arm of enforcement. They do have the tool of enforcement. They have institutions and complete systems, and have institutions within those systems that support and maintain their decree of white only. So they don't just say this is white only. They have the actual legal, legitimate access to power to make it so. And
that's right.
Those of us who are politically designated as black in America today do not have, nor have we ever had, the legal access to all the same systems and institutions, because those systems and institutions were created by white people for the benefit of white people. So we don't have a comparable experience. So to underline
clear
what
it
you're
up,
saying.
to clear it up. Thank you.
Yeah,
and you have that vocabulary and the language and the understanding of it fully. Yeah. Right.
No, I'm just underlining what you're saying. That it's not at all the same thing. It's nothing at all like the same thing.
Not like it at all. And the thing about it is, we're talking about in the past when segregation happened. But do we think there's still not white, exclusive white spaces? Of course they are.
In many ways.
And Brother Shaq brings it to mind all the time, because they push black people out because of the price.
Right.
How much it takes to get in, or how much it takes to,
they
to
price
eat
you out
there,
of there.
or to sleep there, or whatever. They price you out. And then you say, well, no, that's more about economics and more about rich against poor. Come on.
Right.
Who's disproportionately poverty stricken?
That's right.
And oppressed.
That's right.
Our people, and so we let's get it in on the other side of that.
Whoa, you got it lit up for the break, Mama. Found the other side of the break, family. So we want you to stay tuned, family, and get with some folk who need to be a part of this conversation. We're gonna open up the lines and what have you, and we're gonna get again about safe black spaces here on True Love Movement Tuesday, this October 8th, 2019, here in New Orleans on WBOK 1230, Real Talk, Real Times. Catch you on the other side of the break, family. Stay with us.
Yeah. This is a good show, and I wonder if we can bring in the thing that happened with the judge and the white lady that killed the black man, and the brother and the family and all these type of things too, and the outrage that I'm seeing on social media. I'm seeing a lot of outrage around that, but I'm not seeing enough support for safe black spaces.
Right.
Like there's some, and they're saying, well, those two don't have anything to do with each other because, someone was killed and that kind of thing. But until we're really able to see the need for safe black spaces, we're still kind of stuck in between the black nation and we are the world kind of thing. Yes, I really want to be a we are the world type of person. I really want to say, if you're here on the planet, then you should be here on the planet. Do your thing. Don't hurt nobody and go.
Right.
I would love that idea of life, but it just don't go that way. It's not, we ain't there yet. We want to create spaces like that, and I do believe if we can create safe black spaces within us, then we can get well, and then and then move on from there. We can't. I don't know. I've tried, and it's just too much. There's too many different issues surrounding just being a loving, open-minded, open-hearted person.
Right.
Because I wonder how the guy, the man who was killed by that lady, I wonder what kind of person he was.
Great question.
It ain't about being a loving person. You know, black people are inherently loving.
Oh, yes.
We are naturally loving. We've been turned and twisted and hurt and psychologically damaged to be like them.
Right.
You know? Or even worse, because we have this internal struggle between who we are and who they've created us to be.
Right.
You know, so we got a lot to struggle with. Mm-hmm. And so I say we struggle together. Right. I say let's come together and struggle together through it so we will be strong enough to say we are the world. You know what I'm saying? To say we are the world because we had our proper place in the world. Nobody is meant, no human being, and even animals and stuff, but I mean, I'm not going to talk about them, but no human being is meant to be on the bottom.
Right.
We are meant to be just doing our thing. Right, horizontal. And then in our minds, we have been taught that somebody has to be on the bottom. How can a group of people be on the bottom? How can that happen? And of course, through capitalism, right, and the United States government, someone has to be on the bottom in order for people to be on the top.
Right.
In order for people to be on the top. I mean, it's sad. And so Brother Shaq and I have sat and we have thought and wrestled with a bunch of stuff and created curriculums and thought about all these things and formulas and all these things. And what we decided is what we do. What we decided that actually works is what we do. Telling our people that, you know, come on through, let's work on what we have to work on without any pressure from outside of us.
Right.
Because I don't know about you, Brother Shaq, but when I'm in white spaces, I feel pressure. I do. I feel pressure. I don't feel less than, but I do feel pressure. Like I just want to run out of there. I don't even want to be in there.
Right.
What's that about? You know, I'm not fearful of them or scared of them. It's just that it feels, something about it feel wrong. It doesn't feel as balanced as, or like I can be as effervescent and bright and shiny as when I'm with my people.
Right.
You know? Yeah, I mean, let's talk about it. Let's get it in. Shout out to EMA. She doing her thing. I apologize if she's very loud. But you know what? It takes a village. For one, it takes a healthy village. That's what we're saying. But two, like, you know, I'm not into the professionalism where no children are allowed. You know, right. I'm really not into it. I'm not. Now, if somebody would tell me, you know, well, it's professional, you know, you got to make sure that such and such and such. We need to start thinking of the village a little bit differently. You know, and shout out to all my sisters who, since I've been keeping EMA during the week, who have to come and see me when I have her. And instead of being like, well, this unprofessional, you got a baby up in here, they are more like, hey, baby, how you doing? Can I hold her? What do you need? What do we need to do? You know, and shout out to that village heart, that healthy village heart. That says wherever the little one is, you know, at least she's here with you. At least she's okay. And then she's welcome. She's welcome. She's a little bitty thing. She don't need anything. She's a little loud. But, I mean, I think that's normal, right? We'd rather her be loud than not say nothing at all.
That's right.
You know, there was the time when we was worried about her. I mean, she was in the woods. And now she ain't in the woods no more. She here with us. And she's bright and shiny. And she like to hit her bracelets on the thing. And she like to stack her blocks and all those things. So please understand that True Love Movement is this movement.
That's right.
We are this movement. And so we do what we think is right for our people.
That's right. A lot of history behind just that story you just told, Mom Fire.
Yeah.
Just with Yami and her story. In her family's story, and that's just a fact of, you know, our lives.
Yeah.
And again, an indicator as well as a microcosm, a beautiful example of some of the challenges and struggles that our people are up against to just do very basic and mundane things. All right, family. Good evening and welcome back to True Love Movement Tuesdays. I'm your host, Brother Shaq.
And Mama Fire.
Right here on WBOK 1230 AM, Real Talk for Real Times here in New Orleans. And shout out to everybody who is joining us today on the web at www.wbok1230m.com, as well as the WBOK 1230M app, which is available in Google Play and in the App Store. And of course, at 1230 on your AM dial. And shout out to our Facebook Live family. Big shout out to our Facebook Live family who've been in and out and holding it up for us. The brother Jamar GC Spurlock, we see you, brother. Thank you again. And of course, everyone else that's in there and has been there, and those of you who are there, go ahead and share this show with folk you respect. If you're just joining us, we're talking today about safe black spaces, and there's a lot of nuance in that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things that we're getting into today as we're relating it to our own open mic weekly on Sundays at the Neo Jazz School of Music, Free to Speak, True Love Movement partnering up with Neo Jazz School of Music to bring a different kind of unconventional sort of circumstance that our people can enjoy and learn from and participate in. What you say, Mama Fire?
Yeah, I say this has been a good, the first hour we dug in a little bit, but, we calling out too for first-time callers, calling the solution line, 504-260-9265. Give us a call, 504-260-9265. Let's talk about safe black spaces and what that means for us, and yeah.
Yeah, and even some of the things that we mentioned on the other side of the break, Mama Fire, I thought were particularly poignant because, you talked about just briefly how there's sometimes a visceral response to the notion of a safe black space being synonymous with being a white-only space, and the misunderstanding or mischaracterization that,
How could it be when there's no equity?
Well, I mean, I'm with you because I have a
Yeah.
good, thorough understanding of that. I just think that
There's no equity. We should take our space. We should take our space. We should say the things. We should do all those things in resistance.
Right.
To what we've had to endure. And no one says, man, you see, no one's talking to white people and saying, we can't do this. We can't have spaces where it's exclusively us.
Right.
But black people say that to
Sure.
me, that we cannot do that. They tell me that, well, then if you do that, then I'm not coming because I believe we are the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, if you believe we are the world, then please be we are the world. I'm never going to want to debate that.
Sure.
Wherever you are, it's okay. Black man, black woman, black child, wherever you are. But if you want to change things, we have to change the way we do things radically. Change the way we think about things, change the way we do things, change our habits, change our heart.
That's right. That's right.
Who else gonna change it? Ain't nobody coming here to change it. It's only you.
No, that's it. And we all we got, and we are plenty enough.
Plenty enough. Yeah.
Plenty enough. And so again, I'm grateful to our folks who are joining us on Facebook Live, and grateful to all of you who have been riding with us for this last hour, and traveling in the car or with family or picking folk up or sitting in traffic, trying to make your way home to your safe place. But we would still implore, when we opened up, I want to ask those folks who are just joining us and even those who have been with us to think deeply about about where you feel safe, like the location or locations in which you actually feel safe. Because it's a hell of a thing to ponder when you have a very short list like black folk tend to do, to realize that there's a consequence. Because I want to get back, Mama Fire, to what you were talking about, of some of the behaviors, the unsafe or undesirable or the violations and predatory things that do occur amongst black people. I want to say that there's a real need to talk about and think about the impact of hypervigilance and what that does to your mind and what that does to your body when you do not know and experience safety as part of your human experience.
Yes.
What is the consequence? What's the
several,
impact?
many It's a basic need. Safety is a basic need. To be able to feel secure, safe and secure is a basic need. And so to be able to grow and develop normally, you
Right.
need safety and security and stability. It's part of the hierarchy of needs. And so for our people, that shifts everything.
Right.
I was reading on mental health today all the time because this is the work that I do, but I was reading on what they call mental fitness, which is like physical fitness, and there are different ways to know if you're physically fit, being able to run a mile or something. There are measurements of that. There are also ways to see if you're mentally fit, and if you're secure in spaces, then they have that as a guideline. And I can share that. Maybe we can do a show on mental fitness.
Yeah.
But it's different for us.
Right.
It has to be a different guideline for us because of what we endured.
Right.
Either every black person is mentally ill and should be getting reparations and a check.
Definitely.
Housing and all that stuff. We can go that way. Or we can say the guidelines have to change for different people and for black people in specific.
That's right.
And that's the type of thing that we can talk about together. Because if we talk about that in white spaces, or primarily white spaces, or whatever you want to call it, then we have to endure people intellectualizing it and saying, well, what about this and what about that and these type of things, even though we know it's true.
Definitely.
You just look at two things and they are not equitable.
That's right.
And so that means nothing is equitable. That means nothing is equitable. And so then everything needs to be destroyed.
Yes.
And redone in a way that is equitable.
That's right.
And until that happens, then don't come talking to me about, intellectualizing why that should or should not happen.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Mama Fi. Don't even come talking to us.
No, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it because the truth is the truth is the truth is the truth.
That's right.
And True Love Movement is here to say it, and we're tired of saying it to white people or any other people. We're tired of saying it. You're not listening, and you're not gonna listen. You're not getting ready to change anything because you're not getting ready to shift the dynamic of power.
That's right.
You're not getting ready to do that. So how about we talk to our people about it then, huh?
That's right.
How about we give some enlightenment and give some understanding and real proof about ways we can be healed, ways that we can be healed, but also ways that we can understand ourselves in the world that they created and understanding ourselves in a world that maybe we can create.
That's right.
Yeah. Will.
This is about shifting power.
Yes.
That's what the conversation really is about as it relates to safe black spaces. And I wanted to say our brother Jamar Spurlock, he was saying our spaces were birthed out of necessity.
Necessity.
It is long overdue.
Necessity, yes it is.
That history and the origins of black spaces and the proverbial safe black spaces came because we were looking for and seeking solace because it was nowhere outside of us, and we got to know that part of the history, and we really got to feel that, though. I love how you just said that about, this intellectualization of the concept of a safe black space versus all white space or white only kind of thing, and to feel family, to feel the experience, the historical and ancestral experience, and the current experience, of our people through that. Mama Fire, you raised a really valid point that was timely and also timeless surrounding, the current events on the break, family. So those of you who are listening on the radio, if you'd like to get the full show and the fullness of the show, again, you can like True Love Movement on Facebook and watch us here live in the studio. But on the break, Mama Fire dropped so many jewels, and one of the ones that stood out is she was relating our conversation today about safe black spaces and being safe at home and what have you to the brother who we know was just killed recently by his white neighbor who was also a police officer, And the whole story behind that, if you followed that trial, I didn't really follow the trial and don't know all the details. I just kind of know how it turned out, and I also know that the brother who was the star witness was also murdered days after the verdict, of course, because there's going to be an appeal made on the sentencing and conviction, and of course they no longer have a so-called star witness in the wake of that brother's death, who was really being black and who witnessed something terrible and did what his quote unquote civic duty. But you mentioned the sense and feeling of safety and the wonderment of the hugging thing that's been going on, that came as a result of the verdict and the sentencing for the white woman who was a police officer in the murder trial of the brother who was killed by her, and the aftermath of that jury trial and and I don't know that it was a jury trial, so let me not misspeak, but there was the judge, in fact, and others as well as his family, even hugged the convicted felon who killed their loved one and killed the black man there in the community. But the family hugged and the judge embraced. And you had something really important to say about that, Mama Fi, on the break.
I mean, I think what I've been hearing is the outcry. People have been angry. People have been angry about that. People don't want to see that. And I think there's some people who are angry, but then some people who say, yes, this is the Christian way. This is the way that we're supposed to be. We're supposed to forgive our enemies. We're supposed to love our enemies. And no. I think we haven't hated them yet.
Right.
We haven't hated them yet. We haven't sat down and really just understood all we've had to endure, and all those things first, so that we can get that out of us.
Right.
We can get it out of us. We can really see the reason why all these things happen the way they do. But anyway, I'm talking about really the people who were angry and upset. There have been people who were angry and upset about it, but then these are the same people that will come around and say we can't have safe black spaces.
Right.
These and
cognitive dissonance in there.
Yeah, dissonance in there, saying sister, that's just wrong. You should be able to allow anybody to come into a space. If they want to come, they should be able to come. But then we want to get angry, and they said, well, sister, somebody was killed and that kind of thing. But it's as above, so below. It's micro and macro. It's up to us to say, we deserve love and respect for ourselves, for people who love and respect us.
That's right.
We deserve love and respect from those, we give love and respect to those who love and respect us.
That's right.
So, yeah, I was kind of going off on that, but it's a current event, and it's currently happening right now. People are very upset about it, but we don't do anything.
We don't do anything.
Yeah, we don't do anything differently about it. We don't change our mindset. We don't decide we're gonna support black businesses. We don't, what I'm saying? We don't do anything differently to move anything around.
Right.
And I think an effort to have safe black spaces, Brother Shag, is changing things.
Definitely. And that's a matter of self-respect. Mama Fi, I want to qualify that too in saying that to create and cultivate and maintain a safe black space is a matter of self-respect. And we know that as we have been dehumanized, for these centuries, these 4 centuries and change, just here in America, that we don't really operate with a whole lot of collective self-respect. We do not do that, and we do not respect our brother and sister because of the way that our humanity has been stripped away from us. So I'm not offering a critique on our people and our behavior as much as I'm acknowledging the multi-generational dehumanization process that has happened to us, and as a result of that, the ways in which that we do not we do not have and hold close respect for ourselves individually nor collectively, which makes it very easy. And I want people to really listen to what I'm getting ready to say about this thing. Part of the precise reason the strategy was employed because when there was this thought about slavery being wrong, morally wrong, it was so profitably right. And there were many folk who had, at that time were English and had come to be called white, who thought that this was a moral dilemma that didn't sit well with them. So I want to recognize that too for the folk who are sympathizers and want to make sure the conversation is balanced and that those who are now in the dominant culture are given their just due. I know that that's important to many of our people for the good name, the so-called good name of the dominant culture to be preserved in its all of its so-called integrity, while simultaneously discussing something like this. But the idea that black folks were chattel and they were not human, and then they moved away from being chattel and became real estate. Like that's something that's really important, and I want people to remember the historical chronology about that, because first of all, when you chattel, you are an animal. You're not a human being, and that was the first step, so that it was made clear in understanding that enslaved Africans were not people like the white people who owned them. They were not people, so that it was okay to do whatever you do to them. And that is the same thing that moved when enslaved Africans were legally classified as real estate. That again, these are not really people. And so when you take somebody's humanity from them, and then you also reinforce that through systems and institutions, then it's okay to do them anything. And so that is the thought in the psyche of America, that those of us who are now politically designated as black, who descend from enslaved Africans, who are here right now in America, aren't really human beings. And because we're not really human beings, we aren't accorded the same rights and privileges as human beings. That's important that we at least get that, so that we ain't confused why we as black folk can do other black people so foul and so wrong and so much harm. Because we know, even though this thought that black folk are inherently violent together and inherently violent amongst each other, we know that those same violent black folk are not violent towards white folk. We know that because all of the data says that it isn't the case. The data says, and we're not the ones even tracking the data. We're a small group of people, Mama Fine, 12% maybe of this nation's people. And we are not, again, statistically, the most violent people at all. We don't produce nor create the most violence. These are all statistical facts, especially for the people who would like to say, well, what about black on black crime and that kind of thing. So that's all relative, because every race has internal crime at a higher rate because of proximity. So that's not a real argument. There's no equity in that conversation. But just so we understand that part of the consequence of us not being human, not seeing ourselves as human, saying that we're savages even, because now we say we're savages, and we're a beast. You know what I'm saying? Like we are.
The savage thing is is very trippy, because who did they call the savages?
Right.
They called the Native Americans savages, the indigenous people of this land savages, and we calling ourselves what they called us.
Right.
So at the end of the day, can we get the real gist of what's going on here? Mm-hmm. You are the real Native Americans, brothers and sisters.
That's right.
And you are not savages. You are the most civilized.
That's right.
You are the most civilized.
And history tells us that our people have civilized folk all over the planet. So-called civilized is because I think that's even a colonized term, I'm afraid. It's the concept of civilizing someone, because it says it presumes that they're uncivilized, and the person who uses the term or defines the term also defines who and what qualifies as civilized.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that I don't even think that that's germane to us as indigenous people to this land, or just indigenous people to the planet, the original people.
Yes.
You know, we're talking about machinations of people who've only been on the planet for maybe 6,500 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, up against or opposed to people who have been here for millions of years, verifiably so from their sciences.
That's right.
So there ain't no debate about that. You know.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Brother Shay.
Right
Thank you
on.
for sharing that. And I want to call out again the solution line. Call WBOK 12:30 a.m. if you'd like to talk to True Love Movement on True Love Movement Tuesdays. The solution line, 504-260-9265. Again, 504-260-9265. We're talking about safe black spaces and the need for it, and also the understanding and melting the understanding, the coldness of understanding that, you know, we don't need them, that they're not necessary. They're very,
That's right.
very necessary, and especially right now.
That's right. And I would say if we looked at the statistical data, you know, if we really looked at all the statistical data that exists across the board, we would find that, you know, you're not necessarily safer with white folks present.
Oh.
Not according to the data even. I'm not saying anybody's particular opinion. I'm just saying the data suggests that. And that's important because part of the psyche and the visibilization of violence, or the history of violence and the occurrence and proliferation of violence in America suggests that it ain't, you know, those who have come to be called white, or those within the proverbial so-called dominant culture who are committing the violence. But that's exactly where all the data says. Mm-hmm. All of the data says that. So we would be wise to just recognize the information that is available to us, that we can digest that for our sanity's sake, Mama Fi, not for any political propaganda or anything else, but simply for our sanity.
That's right. That's right. That's right. We've been psychologically damaged, and you know, in an effort to get to reclaim our sanity and really incorporate sanity in everything we do or say, there's going to be some things that we need to do first.
Right.
Yeah.
And that we're capable.
We are capable, and having safe black spaces is one of them.
That's right.
Yeah.
And right here, right now, of course, this is a safe black space right here on WBOK 1230 and Real Talk for Real Times. And the lines are also lit up. We want to invite our callers. Thank you for holding. What's happening?
Oh, good evening. How you doing?
Good evening.
Hey, what's happening?
Okay, now, you know, since you're, talking the way you're talking, and I agree with you, what should we do then?
What should we do? Let's be more specific. What are you asking?
Well, I just tuned in, and if I'm hearing you right, you know, and I always say that we all shouldn't be included into, I guess, what's going on as far as what these Caucasians are doing. Simply because I'm going to start with myself. I do not participate in any holidays, right?
Uh-huh.
I do not stimulate the economy.
Right on.
You know, at the same time, I'm paying attention to what's going on as well, you know, with the politics and all, and how they, you know, especially IRS, how they're oppressing the people.
Right.
And you look at the majority of black folks here in America, they, for some reason, adopting this, you know, Western civilization or way of living.
Uh-huh.
By contributing towards the economy, stimulating the economy, and not even realizing that they're being oppressed.
Right.
Okay? So this is why I was asking you, you know, what shall we do then?
Okay.
I mean, listen to the way you talk and the way, you know, and I agree to a certain extent.
Okay.
The people are blending, black folk that is, are blending in, are going along with the okie doke, and at the same time giving each other a hard time. Like, you know, you hear the way I'm talking?
Right.
If I was to talk this way to, you know, say, even my family members, they'll come down on me. They'll crush me.
Right.
How do you think on that?
Right. Well,
This show, you know, just FYI, I know you just tuned in, but this show is talking about safe black spaces, and the reason why True Love Movement in particular, but other organizations are creating safe black spaces, you know, in rebellion or in
response to
you know,
what
in
he's
response,
talking
but also in resistance. You know, So what we're talking about, so that is what True Love Movement is doing, is amongst many other things.
Right.
You know, and yes, there are things to do. There's many things to do, and I think when we want to know what should we do, we should look in the mirror.
Right.
We should look in the mirror and say, what can I do to free my mind? And you've already have, brother, and also like your family, and then the neighborhood, and then the community, you know, bringing these insights to our people in ways that they can receive them.
That's right. And also, too, brother, we were saying, because this show is about the creation, cultivation, and the maintenance of these safe black spaces, the need for them, and differentiating them from the antiquated, at least politically antiquated, white-only spaces, where sometimes that comparison is made only for those folk who are more into disorganizing our people than organizing them. We're talking.
Okay, let me say this, and I'm going to close with this.
Okay.
You know, I know we here in America.
Yes.
And like you were saying about, you know, for as black, you know, population here in America is 12%, and you look at their population, how it's overwhelming.
Right, 71.
Damn, man, I'm losing my train of thought. Wow.
Stay with it, brother. Stay with it.
I lost my train of thought because, you know, I guess I'm embarrassed now.
No, brother, please don't be embarrassed, brother.
Yeah.
You are fine. This is a safe black space. Man, I mean, as you're gathering your thoughts, I want you to consider, and I don't want you to use no more brain overload, but just use your heart on it. And I want all of our people who are listening and joining us and watching us live on Facebook to consider all of the things that we have to ponder and run through the filters of our brains. It's easy to get overloaded. Go ahead, brother. You got it?
Okay, I appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Right on. What's happening?
Perhaps, you know, what we should do within our own, you know, race is develop some type of non-tolerance. And this don't have nothing to do with the Caucasians.
Uh-huh.
And I know since we're here in America, and the Caucasians most likely wouldn't allow us, and it's a shame I'm saying this, wouldn't allow us to chastise, push some type of harsh, you know, law on our own.
Uh-huh.
You know, simply because we are valuable. We are truly valuable, and what we should be representing. Let me say this clearly: what we should be representing is bureaucracy.
Uh-huh.
Simply because, not democracy, bureaucracy. That's Theocracy. Bureaucracy.
Theocracy.
Simply because we are lost. We are lost. We don't even know our true identity. And I'm going to say this again. It has nothing to do with Caucasians, simply because they came at the tail end of bureaucracy.
Okay.
Right now, I'm going to close with this. And right now, we are living based upon their law. Their law of the land. And that's what they go by, law of the land.
That's right.
They're not going by the bureaucracy, which is true, because that would identify themselves or what they've done. If you look at the presidency, the politics of what they're doing, they would be punished and prosecuted. Thank you.
Right on. And brother, we thank you for joining and dropping those jewels in there with it and adding to the conversation. And we appreciate, you know, all of our listeners and our folks who are joining us live on Facebook, as well as everyone listening wherever you're listening from, whether it's your listening device, your cell phone, or the computer, or you're driving in the car, what have you. But I appreciate the brother taking his time and for everyone being patient, because this is an exercise of what we're talking about with Safe Black Space.
Yes, it is.
Where someone can have the time to say, hey man, I lost my train of thought, and then B, have the time and the patience and the love and care to gather their thoughts. And then, you know, I made the acknowledgement, Mama Fire, that we got so much going on inside of us. That's what we're talking about. That stuff that brother just said, particularly even where he got tripped up a little bit, is a result of the hypervigilance that we experience as black folks, not ever being safe. You're not safe enough to formulate your thoughts and opinions and feelings clearly. That was it in real time, family. That's what we're saying. That's what we're talking about, and that makes our case, which I'm sure many of you, agree and can understand, for declaring, cultivating, and maintaining the black safe spaces, just in the way the brother was saying about, well, what do we do? Like, that's what we do. We do more of that.
Yes, we do.
We do more of that.
And, Brother Shaq, we need to learn how to formulate our thoughts in a way, because if we're in predominantly white spaces, ain't nobody gonna be like, come on, brother, speak, say what you need to say, take your time. You know what I'm saying? Nobody gonna say, they're gonna cut you off.
That's right, because ain't nobody
got time for that. They're gonna cut you off. Nobody got time for it. They already think you're ignorant. They already think you don't know. They already think these things about you. And listen, to no fault of their own. They've been spoon-fed this as much as you've been spoon-fed it. But our people, we can be safe with each other to be able to say, I really can't, I forgot my train of thought, and not be embarrassed.
That's right.
And be given encouragement.
That's right.
I think about Sunday when a little sister, she started crying on the mic, and everybody that take your time, sister, take your time.
That's right.
It's all right. We understand you tripped up, and we understand why you crying right now.
That's right.
White people might be like, well,
this isn't the place.
This isn't the place or time, or whatever the case may be. But I'm not gonna say what they gonna do. I know what we did.
That's right.
I know what we did in that moment. We held her in our hearts at that time. And said it was okay, because that's what free to speak is. And I would like to invite everybody out on October 20th,
that's right.
2019.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. And listen, we start on time and we end on time. We end at 9 o'clock on a Sunday. We don't want it to go too long. Everybody got children and everybody got things that they need to do. So we wanna hold that space too. That's sacred and that's safe when we say it starts at 6 and it ends at 9.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And we know sometimes that's challenging for our people to quote unquote be on time, because we're in time. We're rhythmic people and we have a different relationship to time. And that's the historical axiology of our people. And that's something that we may talk about on another show. It's not just, what you've heard about quote unquote CP time. There's some very deep psychological reasons that have formulated our relationship with time. For a particular reason. So we are definitely in time and not on time, but we will operate within the confines of the time allotted to do what we need to do, so that we can be respectful of everyone's life and experience,
especially ours.
Ours.
And that's a modeling or an example to our people that says, me and Brother Shaq and Neo Jazz School of Music and everybody who's there playing instruments or whatever have lives to be able to do things with too. We need to do self-care. We need to, whatever we need to do, that we're able to offer ourselves for this time period, and that's okay. And that's okay. We're giving as much as we can to make sure that we're giving from the overflow.
That's
right. Make sure that we are full. And that's not selfish. And that's what I like about Brother Shaq and I, or True Love Movement, and our truth ambassadors too. We need to do what we need to do for ourselves to make sure we're okay, so that we can help others.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's self-respect.
Self-respect. That's self-love, self-preservation, all those good selves.
And all that includes self-defense.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? So we're saying that in the idea of the safe black spaces, again, is something that we create for each other, and the need and necessity. And it's also rooted a little bit deeper too, Mama Fi. It's not an imposition of any kind, but it is a part of our allegiance to our own people. That's sane. That is sane. We have said it for many, many years, almost 6 as a matter of fact, or going on more than 6 years at this point, Mama Fi, that one of the greatest things that in any individual black person among us can do is to make sure that black folk know when you're around or when they see you that everything is going to be all right, that they are safe with you on a very individual and micro. Yeah, that we conduct ourselves in such a way. I'm not talking about what we theorize or pontificate. I'm talking about energetically what we actually live, that when we are around, that black folk in the place, or black folk who are in near proximity to us, can see us and recognize, to know that we're not going to harm them. That is something we can do for each other. That is a choice. That is a deliberate choice. However, it requires us to recognize ourselves and our brother and sister and be well upon sight, and be well enough to know that I'm not going to harm myself, so there's no way that I could harm You know, you my brother, you my sister, and that's what some of the internal work that we do, you know, in community, but also away from community and alone, Mama Fi.
Yes. And with all that to say, Brother Shaq, I want to shout you out especially because, you know, when we do Free to Speak, I'm the host, your lovely host, Mama Fire.
That's right.
You know, so I'm keeping things moving, I'm keeping things going, I'm sharing some pieces, I'm encouraging people to come get on the mic. And Brother Shaq, I always call you up as a representative of True Love Movement. Mm-hmm. And you always dropping major jewels, right? Because there's only so many major jewels we can drop here on WBOK 1230 AM to keep it suitable for the
FCC,
you know, for the FCC, for the radio waves and all this other stuff.
Right.
But in a space like Free to Speak, you're able to really dig deeper.
That's right.
In a way that has moved our people. They have been moved. Because people have texted me, oh, girl, Brother Shaq got me thinking. And, oh, Brother Shaq, the way he was talking about this and that and the third. I just got an email talking about, girl, Brother Shaq, you know, he sure know how to move us kind of thing. And so I want to shout you out for that. I want to shout you out for being the rock of Free to Speak and displaying the type of things that we can do on the microphone at Free to Speak.
Right on.
That if you have a thought, if you have an idea, you can come on through and get in this good vibration.
Right on. Well, thank you for that. I wasn't even expecting anything like that.
Well, you ain't
Thank
supposed to
for
be
that.
expecting that type of stuff. It's just supposed to be a celebration of you.
Well, I do appreciate that, and I received that in your voice, as you always say. I received that, Mama Fi. And I'm also grateful, and we're grateful and thankful for the line still being lit up here on WBOK 1230 and Real Talk for Real Times. Again, that call-in number is 504-260-9265. Call-in number is 504-260-9265 for True Love Movement Tuesdays, where today we're talking about safe black spaces, and we're going to go ahead and take this caller that's been holding. Thank you for holding. What's happening, caller?
How you doing, Brother Shaq, Mama Friday?
Hey, what's happening?
All right. So, I was thinking about, like, back when Paul Bouye was on WBOK.
Uh-huh.
I was like, WBOK still is my safe place as far as radio goes. And like talk shows and calling and just giving your opinion. You know what I mean? I think I heard you mention earlier that like if somebody said I lost my train of thought, they're like, okay, click. You know what I mean? So this scenario that we in right now, this moment is a definite safe place.
That's right.
And I just think if more people knew about it, everybody would listen.
Sure.
There's no need, you know what I mean? They just don't know. You know what I mean?
Right. That's right.
But then I thought about on a bigger scale, what I've experienced in safe place during Essence Festival at the convention center. I just think about people and like all our people. Just I did live in an incident or two, who knows? But whenever I'm there and I'm just in that convention center doing Essence, I see nothing but our people, nothing but love, nothing but good time.
Right.
And it feels safe. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So I was trying to think of a practical example. I know you always like to give personal,
Sure.
examples.
That's right.
And then lastly, as a different note, I was talking to someone, driving someone, do like the little ride share. A white guy who's a musician who went to Brazil, I think it was something of that nature that had like a festival.
Right.
And he was just talking about how, it was just all them. And he was making a relation to Jazz Fest, how Jazz Fest, in his opinion, don't really represent the culture. And how they bring in these big, groups from England, like, Rolling Stones, it just don't represent what New Orleans culture is all about.
That's right.
And I asked, I said, okay, what makes you think, why we hesitant and not, why we don't have that? He said, well, firstly, it might be economics, people may not support it. But my thought was like, man, I asked that question and I thought, like, wow, it goes back to the black codes, you know what I mean? And this is deep.
Say more about that,
experience.
Man. Say more about that, brother, would you? About the black codes.
Well, just like how, they don't want to see, it was against the law to have so many black people together, you know what I mean? On the streets. So, if they see you dance together, they would always disperse you or anything like that.
Right.
And this is during the time, of course, like, I guess, I don't know the era, the time frame. But, they just have these rules in place place for us to just, just break it down even further. You
There
mentioned
were laws.
merchandise and real estate. You know what I mean? So
Right.
There's just a lot of psychological layers that we just deal with, man, as people. So
Definitely.
with the event that you mentioned on Sundays, I definitely want to try to make it out to.
Good.
And, I hope we come up with more and more places where we can feel safe
That's
in the
right.
sense of being ourselves and saying what we want to say what's on our mind.
Right on, brother. Thank you for that.
So thank you very much.
I know, thank you.
Thank you. The fact that we feel like we can't say
Yeah.
what's on our mind is the reason why we must have and cultivate spaces like this. And then if we get in the habit, like, I've seen you grow, Brother Shaq, and I don't know, I'm just shining light on you today.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I've seen you grow so much since you've been a part of the People's Institute. I've seen you grow in not only your confidence in language, but also like in white spaces. Not that you were cowardly in white spaces,
Never that.
but never.
Right.
But your audacity to speak and speak your mind on behalf of Black people has really boosted up a whole lot. Because you were like me. I don't want to say nothing. I don't need
Right.
to say nothing. And none
Right.
of y'all got none times. You don't need a piece of my mind at all. You don't need anything from me.
And you can't pick my brain.
You can't pick my brain.
Say
You
that
don't need a
again.
piece of my mind. You don't need any real attention
That's
from
right.
me. And that's how we used to roll in spaces. But now your confidence, and it's more than confidence. It's like proof and facts that you have that slams down anything they could bring. Has been cultivated in safe spaces.
That's right.
It has been cultivated in safe spaces.
That's
and so
right.
if we want to be stronger in white spaces, then let's get into Black spaces and be safe there.
That's right.
So that we can expand our understanding of who we are and we can say that wherever we are.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that again. I
You
appreciate
know,
it.
because see, I be watching, I be doing stuff, I be witnessing things, and
Yeah.
But I like to say it publicly on the radio, but also on YouTube forevermore, to be captured forevermore.
Well, thank you for that, Mama
Yes,
Fire.
you're welcome.
I would say in just in response to that, what you're describing, a lot of it is also my improving sanity,
Yes.
because that's what it is. That as you have these kinds of experiences, you become more sane. That's what we're doing. True Love Movement is about the rehumanizing work of our people.
Yes.
That's what we do. We understand that this has made us, this has completely made us void of sanity. In order to survive this kind of oppression, we had to give up and lay down parts of our humanity that weren't directly stripped from us just to be here. So in the reclamation of our sanity, we've got to do these things just so that we can be whole and healthy human beings and have the human experience that our ancestors deserved, that we deserve as human beings and original people on this planet, and that we're the only ones who are going to restore us to that. That is our responsibility and our charge here for our time. Because family, listen, we say this, and we've been saying this for many years on the radio, but even long before the radio, interwoven in all of our work, that this work that we are doing, that we're doing here personally and collectively as True Love Movement, but that each one of us who is Black, who is listening, who is watching, who is participating in this particular time, in this moment, this is all legacy stuff.
Yes.
We are writing and creating our legacy in real time.
Yes, we are.
And whatever people will say about us once we leave this place, we're putting that together right here, right now. And so it's on us to create the kind of legacy that folk will be proud of, but also the kind that will shift and change things so that the world will be different because we did live once we are gone from it, Rise in power, speaking of that, rise in power to our brother here locally, our brother Larry Sanders, or AKA Larry Muhammad, of Mosque 46.
Yeah.
The brother was, I understand, 42, 43 years old, Mama Fire.
I know
what I'm
Brother
saying?
Larry. I
And-
taught his girls. I taught his girls at Kumba Academy, very sweet girls, and he was such a great daddy, and always into wanting what's best for them.
That's right.
He did a great job at Kuma Academy with his girls and that family, and so rise and power, King.
That's right. And just to acknowledge that, life and lifespan, we talked a little bit last week about lifespan
So
and
short,
the
Lord.
presumptiveness of lifespan being synonymously with something very, very long.
Mm-hmm.
We know long and short is relative, and none of us knows. So the best that we can do is to do everything like this is our last time, because eventually that's going to be the truth. It's going to be the case.
Ooh,
So
yes.
there's a certain level of intensity and responsibility that we each have because we have the power to manifest it. That's why.
Yes.
Because we have the power to manifest it. As we have the power to create and cultivate safe black spaces, Mama Fire. So
Yes.
as we are winding down, how best would you say for all of our folk who are listening and our folk who are watching us and have been with us the whole time here on the Facebook Live, those who have come and gone in and out, and those who are sharing this show currently and will be sharing it later, and then watching it on YouTube again to remember or catch some of the parts they may have missed if they joined us late. What are some of the things in terms of takeaways, to use that language, but just the things that are most important about how we move forward, what we do, what the brother was asking about, what our other caller was talking about, and everybody at home or wherever they are? What are some things that we could really put out there?
Yeah, I think creating and cultivating safe black spaces, and whether a safe black space is your home, or a safe black space is the event that you've created, or a safe black space is your office or your workplace, wherever it is, meaning we're safe to speak, but also safe and secure, and no one is being hurt in the space.
That's right.
And for us as a people, we have to acknowledge and identify ways that we hurt each other in spaces.
That's right.
So this is twofold. This is so that we can feel like we're doing something for us, by us, but also that we are safe in each other's company,
right,
and in each other's, mind space to, create and cultivate that. And it's not as hard as we think it is.
No.
And it's not wrong either. And so ejecting the fact, the what we've been taught that it's wrong to do is important as well. Sitting with yourself. If you think it's wrong, sit with yourself and ask yourself why.
That's right.
Why is it wrong?
That's right.
For us to create and cultivate safe black spaces.
That's right.
And I think I want to invite everybody out to Free to Speak. It is October the 20th, 2019, which is a Sunday, and every Sunday after that. And if you want more information on the address, just follow us on social media, contact the station, whatever you need to contact. We'll let y'all know where it's located, and it's going to be every Sunday from there. Also, Tukrama Center for Art and Culture has partnered with True Love Movement, and we're providing a community healing discussion or community healing conversations, specifically utilizing our curriculums and formulas for our people.
That's right.
These are free, and these are once a month at Tukrama Center for Art and Culture, which is located right now in the Sanchez Center, which is 1616 Catherine Avenue. And our next one is going to be October the 19th, which is a Saturday, October 19th at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
The reason why we're deciding to do it at 10 is so that we can have our class and then leave and do other things and have the rest of our day to have self-care or whatever the case may be. And I know it's a little early, but it's important work that we do and we have done monthly or in collaboration with Tukrama Center for Art and Culture. And so it's called the Power Class.
All right.
Brother Shaq and I have decided, we did the Power Class many years ago and for many years.
Right.
And we decided just to do one for our community. to do a power class for our community. And we started developing the power class for youth, at what they call an at-risk youth. And then let me say, we can't say stuff like that.
That's right.
You know,
Linguistics is important.
You know, for our young people between the ages of 18 and 24. And so, yes, we want them in the space, but we want adults and we want everybody in the space
Oh, yeah,
for
this
the
is
power
everybody.
class. Yeah.
This is all of our people.
Yep, and that's going to be happening at Sanchez Center on October 19th at 10 o'clock in the morning. So, that's the day before, and we'll definitely talk about Free to Speak, which is the day after.
That's right.
The power class. So, if you want more information, you can always go to truelovemovement.com.
That's right. Or follow True Love Movement on Facebook, like True Love Movement on, or follow True Love Movement also on Instagram, and check out and subscribe to the True Love Movement, our YouTube channel for previous shows like this one, as well as, you know, we got years worth of material out there, and we would encourage you to check it out and check us out. And one more thing about the creation, maintenance, and necessity of Black safe spaces, Mama Fi, I just want to add to it on a very individual level that create that safe space, with yourself. Like, don't do yourself no harm nowhere, and then don't do your brother, your sister no harm nowhere, so that when our folks see our folks, you know that you good, simply because your people are there. And that's work, family. That's work, and we're up against a lot in doing that, but I'm so confident that the best of us will come out, and that we will do all we can to ensure that Black folk are safe wherever Black folk are, until we don't have to talk about this no more.
That's right.
In all spaces will be safe Black spaces. So our brother Shaq,
And Mama Fire.
for True Love Movement Tuesdays, family,
Wholeness.
You want to say wholeness? I want to say wholeness.
She was so good, y'all.
That's right.
And I realized she needed my chair. She needed my chair.
Right.
And so she could sit up like a big girl and play with her little stuff. So
That's right.
put your black fist up, mommy. Put your fist up.
I'm not worried about those fists.